So, it's just good to get started again, obviously, and, begin the 27th year back here. And really every year it's the same thing, same mix of eagerness, if you will, anxiousness and optimism. And probably the eagerness comes as much from anything, just the work ethic and attitude of this team's been strong going back to January, and they've continued that, so that part's good. Anxiousness, every year, you have the unknown, certainly, and that's a fun part of it, but also, you're just always curious to see how things are going to materialize, how they're going to come together, and we're in that process now. And then the optimism, I think, just comes from the fact, again, we've got a roster, I think, where we've got a good amount of veterans. We've lost some real key veterans over the last couple of years, but a good group of veterans right now, and a strong group of guys in the middle group maybe that haven't played a lot, but I think are ready to take that next step. And then, you always got the younger guys as well. So, it's a fluid time right now, fluid competition going on during camp like you'd expect. And it's just kind of fun to watch it and see how it's all going to pull together. So, and that really is, the nature of preseason. That's the beauty of it. It's when you're working through the bumps, working through the ups and downs that come with, pretty competitive practices, and see how things go. So we're about 40% through right now. And, like every year, it's demanding on the players physically, but demanding on them mentally, and I think emotionally as well. We've had good weather up until today, got a little warm, that's good. And, I think it's going to be that way here for a while, so that's great. But, every group out there is kind of a different study, if you will. Start with the quarterbacks, I'll just kind of highlight that one. In terms of the newness, we've got, 3 guys that are relatively new to the program, getting all the reps right now, basically. And, 2 of those guys weren't even here in the spring. So Mark was here in the spring, but wasn't practicing in the spring, so I'll rephrase that. So it's just, it's good to see how they're fitting in, and then some other groups are a little bit more veteran, but interesting to see how they're working. And I think, so again, so far so good with that. Just kind of go there. And to some extent, talking about the quarterbacks, Jimmy Sullivan's in the same boat. He was here last spring, but, should have been in high school, and, it was going 100 miles an hour, 120 miles an hour for him. So fun for things to slow down for him as well. But, bottom line is this, like every position right now, we're looking at them all and just curious to see how they're going to evolve. And there's, a lot of different stories there. And the bottom line is, it's all about how things come together here over the next 3+ weeks. And with this team, I think it's going to be a fluid process, probably even into the season. So that's certainly not a bad thing. We've got several points of emphasis you're always trying to emphasize in camp, and I think single biggest thing, and I'm sure we're not unique in this, but really to do anything difficult to win in this conference, it's not easy. Do anything difficult, it really requires, good focus on things that are important and when they need to be there. And, our guys are in college, they're going to school, they've got social lives, they play football. So they've all got a lot going on. Right now, this is a pure time where, we've got them pretty much a captive audience. So, them learning how to really focus on what's important, that's important. And then the other, contingent, they've always been college athletes and college students, but the biggest difference now is just this new era, with the free agency, salary cap, all that stuff, revenue sharing. It's a little bit different world, and it takes a little different level of maturity, I think, for everybody to handle that. And, so it's one more challenge. But that's really, as much as anything, the biggest, I think, challenge out there. And part of our job as coaches is to try to help those guys filter through stuff that's not important and really be able to focus on what does count. So that's kind of, an ongoing process as well. Then last but not least, just touch on real quickly, I know you guys probably got releases on this, but a couple staff things that have happened over the last 2 months or so. Paul Federici has retired. And I just want to start out by having had a chance to publicly acknowledge him and thank him for all the contributions he's made in 2+ decades here. Paul came here as our head trainer 20-some years ago and did an unbelievably great job at that in that role. And the only bad thing about him moving to operations was, you lose a really good guy in the medical department. Luckily, we've had really good people, think about Russ and people like that, taking over for him, Cammie. So, but Paul's made a lot of certainly valuable contributions, did a great job in a really challenging role, if you will. And so certainly want to wish him and Teddy all the best. They're down in Arizona. Somebody told me yesterday it's hotter there than we'd even dream about being here. So hope he likes hot weather. Ben Hansen will take his role. Ben will be assistant AD, director of ops for us moving forward. Ben's been with us over 10 years. Paul's done a great job mentoring him, and Ben is an outstanding mentee. He's been qualified to probably have that job for years now. Fortunately, stuck with us, and so it's been really kind of a seamless transition. And again, I thank Paul for helping facilitate that. And Ben's already doing a great job. Ireland Hostetler is going to move over from recruiting along with Austin Showalter. He's been a quality control guy, GA quality control guy. They're going to move into operations and work primarily in that area. Austin will still do special projects for me and football-related work that way. He's still dabbling in that, but I think that gives us a real strong department there. And then the other probably noteworthy thing at this point, Jason Manson has transitioned into football full-time. So he's one of the analysts on the offensive side, gives him a chance to really immerse himself in that. Sam Brinks, who's been his assistant, is going to move up into the director of ops role, or player development, I'm sorry. And then Noah Shannon is back with us. He was going to be a GA or a student assistant, and all the titles are different now because of the new rules. But long story short, Noah's going to fill Sam's role in player development. So he and Sam will pair up just like Jason and Sam did previously. And then Noah's also going to work in the football realm of things. So it's his first year in this side of the ball instead of being a player. And I'm not sure he knows exactly where he wants to go professionally. This will give him a good opportunity to see both sides and kind of develop what he wants, or an idea of what he wants to do as he moves forward. So feel really good about that. And then the last thing, just in the next week or two, our recruiting department under Tyler Barnes, it's been reshaped a little bit and reconfigured, and we're filling a void, obviously, with Ireland moving over. We lost a really quality person there, but I think we're really close to making an announcement there, and feel really good about the way things have shaped up. So I think we're in good shape there. And just briefly again, 40% into it. It's been a positive start. The guys are doing a good job. They're attentive, working hard, doing a good job in meetings and all those types of things. So we're hardly halfway there, but it'll be good for them tomorrow to be out there in the stadium. Not that it's going to be packed or anything like that, but for some of the younger guys especially, that'll be a big deal for them. And it's just good to change up things in camp a little bit every now and then. And then beyond that, just the Kids Day concept. I think we're in year 11, 12, 13, something like that. And it's a win-win situation. Again, I'm glad I'm not on the judging panel who has to pick out who the 12 captains are. I hate that job. I would want to be nameless, like NCAA people, the way they make their decisions. But anyway, so it's just a tough job, but what a great way to celebrate a lot of really good stories and tremendous people. So we'll all look forward to that. And the seniors will have a chance to spend time with them in the weight room and swarm with them out on the field. So it's all good. And it's kind of like the wave, just something everybody can feel good about. So a lot of work to do, obviously 3 weeks out, but just happy to be working at it. So I'll throw it out for questions.
Start with Chad on the far right.
Chad Leistiko, Des Moines Register on your right. Last year, Kids Day, this time of year, quarterback play was looking pretty rough, and you kind of said that was pretty indicative of how Cade and others had played. I guess where do you feel like Mark, how much further along do you feel like the passing game is? Is Mark where you want him to be? And then the other two guys, I assume, are Brown and Hicklinski that you're saying are getting most of the reps?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it's those three guys plus Sullivan are like the 1, 2, 3, 4. Jackson's been fighting an illness and kind of an unusual one. You think you've seen everything. You never have 27 years into it. First time he's got it's a hernia that's affected his appetite, and it's just I feel really bad for him. He's struggling to eat and struggling to hold his weight. So it's going to be a long road, but they're going to get it cleared up and all that type of thing. But that's kind of taking him out of the equation for a little bit. But no, it's been good. And, to me, ever since Spencer got hurt out there in November 22, it's been a bumpy road. Nobody's fault, just the way it's been. And that's not the only spot. It's more than, it's everything combined, quite frankly. But as I said last year at this time, my experience is if we have a good offensive line here, good quarterback play, we've got a chance. And I think the good news is I think we have a chance to have both those things. And beyond that, I think our supporting cast is a little bit better balanced and more experienced than it's been. The receivers, good mix of old and young, kind of like our whole team. But They're probably a good illustration of that, and most importantly, they've been practicing pretty well. So, yeah, we're not there yet, but you're starting to see some signs. 2 nights ago, saw some things that were really encouraging. It was Wednesday night, and then this morning, a couple plays where, hey, maybe we can make some tough plays on third down, those kinds of things. And it's just things that keep drives going, and that's how you score points, all those types of things. So we're not there yet, but at least I think we're moving in the right direction.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, I mean, how's Brian Allen been progressing since, over the course of the summer? And I guess where would you kind of assess where the defensive line is right now and the kind of depth that you kind of see them having?
The first guy you mentioned was?
Brian Allen.
Yeah, Brian's doing well. He's, like Mark, he couldn't do anything in the spring. So, he's working through that. That's one thing we were talking about this. I mean, at all levels, a pro player who's played, 10 years successfully, that type of thing, they can miss some time typically and come back and go. But even the best players, like if they don't practice, it's not the same. So you can imagine anybody in college, and that's Mark and Brian too, their challenge is not being out there in the spring. It does make a difference, just in terms of being working at it. His attitude's been great. He's been out there every day, fully healthy. So he's getting there. And I like the competition we're seeing on the defensive line. Unfortunately, Pitt's not working. Jeremiah still out. He's probably a couple weeks away from being back, but it's given other guys an opportunity to work. Both Pace and Hawthorne are doing a good job in there, and Will's done a good job. So Hubert. Those guys are competing. They're improving, and I think we'll be okay there. But we're not there yet.
Hey, Kirk, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Insider, 24/7 Sports. I know you were already asked about Mark, but a lot of the conversation over the last few months has been that you've seen who he is as a person, but haven't been able to see him take live reps yet. I guess, what are your impressions so far of him specifically?
Well, you can ask him about his first day. He was 6 out of 9. That's the good news. I won't say how that 6 got broken down. I'll let him do that. But again, he just he made some throws like, oh, really? And but that again, as his first day, he hadn't thrown with the team. And the improvement from day 1 to day 9 is just not surprising, but it's just I think we're starting to see him in a comfort zone, operating the way you like to, and pulling the ball down. I mean, one thing I can tell you, I've seen him pull the ball down and run, which is not unusual for quarterbacks. Some can't do it, but he can run and keep his eyes down the field. That's a good trait, and he's demonstrated he can do that. So yeah, he looks more comfortable with each day, and everybody around him is more comfortable, and he acts like a veteran guy, and that's that's something you can't hand to anybody, is that experience. So doing a good job there, and I think I mentioned at the Big Ten media deal, one thing we did get to see this summer, because he really couldn't do anything competitive in the spring, we did get to see him in Ray times a lot of the stuff we do, some certain timings and certain moving things, 10 yards, jumping, shuttles, things like that, and he's a sneakily good athlete. Like, he really tested out very well in all the groups of all the guys in his group, his classification, if you will. So, that's a good thing to have if you're a quarterback. But the most important thing is, can you pull the team together, lead them, and get up there and get the ball snapped, and then do something productively. And he's coming along really well. And Hank is doing the same thing. You could tell Hank's been out there in the spring, so he's moving along pretty good too. And Jeremy's bringing up the rear there with that group.
Scott Docterman with The Athletic. Kirk, your offensive line was one of the sneakier good offensive lines in the country last year. You averaged almost 200 yards a game rushing. You only cut your sacks down to 16 last year, but you lost a couple of guys to the draft. And what is right now, how do you feel about your offensive line, and where does the left tackle competition stand, because you brought in a Division II All-American?
I'll go backwards in order, just wide open, the tackle spot and the guard spot. And we're hoping to see good competition in August. You never know how it's going to go, but compared to April, to me, it's a much healthier competition, seeing the guys grow. And that's one of the great things about college football is just the changes. And I'll give you a quick, deviate for 1 second, like, this revenue share stuff. And Scott Pioli was in here, I think, last week or this past week. You guys knew that. But, one big difference between the NFL and here, like in the NFL, you evaluate your team whenever your season ends, either in January or February, and that's pretty much how it is until you start the new season. In college, our guys change every period, in my opinion at least. In the winter program, spring ball, there's 2 evaluations, and you go through the summer. And it's not overly telling, but it tells you something. And then ultimately, is it going to carry over to the field in August when you're actually playing football, not training? But we're seeing these guys really grow. And, it's kind of the way it's been in the past. Like, our guys get better as they stay in the program and work if they're doing the right things. And I think we're seeing that with both, the two main contestants are Trevor and Jack. And both those guys are way better than they were in December and way better than they were, in my opinion, than April. They're not there yet, but they're there. And then Bryce is a newcomer, and talked about, like the 2 quarterbacks getting out there, especially Jeremy not being here in the spring. Bryce wasn't either. So he's a little slow off the ball, a little, because he's thinking right now, but he's trying his ass off, and he's got some good tools. So it's going to be a good, healthy competition, I think, and seeing some good things in the interior as well, watching some guys grow there. So we're not there yet, but I think we have the opportunity to, fill 2 big holes with Connor and Mason leaving. Those are big losses for us. But yeah, right now I'm, semi-optimistic, but we're not there yet.
Corey in the middle.
Coach, I think a natural segue from offensive line be receiver. Big Ten Media Days, you kind of compared that group to where the offensive line was a year ago with progression. Has that continued into fall camp? What's the pecking order at the top? And then is Jarrett Bowie, is he healthy right now?
Yeah, he actually coincidentally just got really cleared. He's been practicing, but limited what he can do. He's had a fracture in his arm, but officially got cleared, I guess, 2 days ago. So he's progressing. I think we got 4 seniors right now. It's kind of snuck up on us, but although Weegen's debating this, I think he's going to play till he's 30. He's trying to be a junior, but anyway, I'd be okay with that. But they're a good group right now. The older guys are doing a good job, and then we've got younger guys coming up the ladder. So it's kind of too close to call right now, but they're all doing some good things, and we'll see what it looks like over 3 weeks. And we're really not going to make too many big judgments until at least you start game prepping a little bit. Then you got to kind of start squeezing it down. But it's good, healthy competition, and that's encouraging.
Dan in front.
Coach Ferentz, Dan Stacy, Sportscast Media and Mediapolis News. You got a really good field goal kicker coming back, and that's real important. Drew Stevens, he's up for the Groza Award. Have you talked to him about that, or has he talked to you about that? Do you feel, what's your feelings on that? And who's your number 1 running back going to be, you think, right now? How's the running back room going?
No idea on that last one, and that's a good thing. I think the group's all working well, and they're doing a good job. So, and then, regarding all these awards, and Matt puts releases out, and they end up on my desk, and I look at them and then throw them in the recycle thing as fast as I can, because with all due respect, I mean, it's like preseason rankings. Really nothing matters right now other than acknowledging where it is pertinent, acknowledging somebody who does have a resume, who's done something. And Drew, I think Drew's a great story. I mean, just all you got to do is look back the last 2 Novembers. And, 2 years ago, he kicks 2 balls out of bounds on kickoffs in our last game. And, we kick a Charlie Brown, field goal that barely got over the goalpost from 10 yards out to win the game. And then last year, I had no doubt in my mind he's going to drill that ball in the last game, a year later. So I think that's kind of represent the growth of Drew. I really do. And just as a person, and this stuff all goes together, in my opinion. He was so young when he showed up here. I mean, really young, physically and kind of emotionally. He's just a high school guy. So where he is now compared to there, it's just night and day. And he's confident, but it's not a false bravado. It's because he's earned it. He works hard. He's just immaculate with his preparation. And that's how you typically guys perform well, is because they do all that hard work when they're supposed to. And, and that he's done that. So, again, representative of what you hope a guy is going to be as a college football player. He's done a great job. And it is nice to have an experienced kicker. That is nice. Really nice.
Hi, Kirk. On your right, Jack Lita with KCRG. It's the first time in a while you haven't had an all Big Ten linebacker returning. So if I'm just Monday morning quarterbacking, I see Harrell, Rexroth, and Shire, those seniors. First off, do you see those 3 seniors as the potential starters in week 1? And if so, what have they done to kind of encourage you as they're stepping into some brand new roles and some really big shoes to fill?
Yeah, so just like Higgins had big shoes and Nick did when he got here, that's part of football if you've had good players. I do see, I'm assuming tomorrow when the ones go out there, those three guys will be in their respective positions. But that competition's wide open right now, and the challenge is a little different for everybody. Shar's, flashed at times. He's played great on special teams, but he's had some durability issues and dependability issues, injury-wise, which, nobody can do anything about that, but it's hard to be a great player at any position, especially linebacker if you can't stay on the field. He's been out there, basically had stubbed his toe a little bit early in spring for a day or two, but he's been on the field ever since and doing really well. He's practicing at a high level. And, I think Harold's done the same thing. He's really done a good job. Jackson's doing a great job. But we've got some guys behind him that are really pressing and pushing. And, again, I know Pat's in the room here somewhere. I referenced that 08 where Pat ended up starting in October. Maybe it was late September, but and Ricky Stanzi the same way. And that's always in the back of your mind. You just never know who's going to emerge. And I think, several positions along the board as we start. Obviously, August is going to help us determine things. But what really matters is what we do when the games start playing and how guys are playing there. So we'll keep an open mind, just keep playing guys. And what they do on special teams is important. Like because we've seen too many pictures of guys playing good special teams and then shifting into their respective positions and that carrying over. So, but yeah, all those guys have come down that same path. They've done a good job on special teams, and anxious to see how it plays out. That's probably one of the biggest positions of intrigue, if you will.
Hey, Coach. Scott Rice for KCCI. Great to see you. Speaking of special teams, Caden Weegan obviously showed what he could do last year. Do you see your offense utilizing him more on offense, or is that a situation where you want to protect him?
Yeah, let's describe now. We're not trying to protect anybody. We're the quarterbacks. But, yeah, so, just the description on him was like a couple of years ago, he went hard. We didn't know where he's going. Mainly because he didn't know where he's going, and then, evolved into a really good special teams performer. And there's, at the start of last year, I don't mind telling you, I was a little, curious and anxious and whatever. And that boy, he just played great as a return guy. And our goal for him is to take that now, carry that over to offense. And I think he's on that road. We'll see how it progresses. But he's done good things in camp already. Some good things in spring, but he's better now than he was in the spring. And, the things that make him really good on as a return guy, obviously would tie into being a good receiver. He's fast, he's fearless, and it's just, getting all the details down. And I think he's really working hard to do that. So, we're hopeful that he'll be contributing a lot offensively.
Scott Docterman again with The Athletic. I wanted to ask you about Logan Jones. He's now, a sixth-year guy, but when you brought him in as a defensive tackle, kind of put him on the Tyler Linderbaum plan. It was up and down early in his career, but he always seemed to have that skill set that was capable of doing it. At what point did it click for him to where his immense physical gifts that he's been able to channel, and he can actually turn it into being one of the best, if not the best center coming into the country this year?
Probably a month or two later than it should have, and I take ownership in that. It is like Linderbaum, except I didn't screw Tyler's deal up. We did it in December, got him over there, and he started practicing. So he basically got an extra spring practice at that position. I think that helped make him more game ready the next fall. And unfortunately, we didn't make the move with Logan until spring. I think it was in January when he got back, but. It just looked like we needed a little bit more help at that position, and he was a logical guy, so I take that probably retarded his progress and growth. I don't know how many weeks, but it didn't take him long to get the feel for it, and he's really playing at a high level and practicing at a high level now. We got a couple of guys that are older, some of the 5th, 6th year guys that came back, and they're all really practicing well, and that's encouraging. The guys up front are really setting the tempo for us.
Dark Sossman, KDSN, Denison. We have a young fella from the Carroll area, DJ Vanami, and he had some good news last month. I think our listeners are going to hear about that.
Yeah.
Some of his progress.
So he actually got good news previous to that last month, but it leaked out last month or whatever. We don't I don't have anybody jump out of a cake or something and say, here's your scholarship. My flair for the dramatics not so good. I think you guys know that. So, but it's just like anything. Guys that work hard and are doing good things. They're hopefully we can reward them in some way. And DJ, we really were so pleased that he chose to come here because we really liked what we saw in high school. As you know, he wasn't a tight end there, but we thought he had a lot of the attributes of guys. In fact, I read an article. It's kind of entertaining somewhere. Whatever you call those little boxes, on your iPad. Like you go to Google something. There's all those little articles in there. There's one that caught my eye, but anyway, it was about tight ends. And the guy wrote it with all due respect, had no clue. He was talking about a guy we didn't recruit. And anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but anyway. But he cited, so we didn't recruit the guy. And the kid's a hell of a good kid, and he's a good player. But we just didn't feel like, he was a fit for us. But the ironic part was he cited the, tight end U stuff. And some of the guys he cited were Kittle, Laporta, who am I leaving out? Hawkinson, maybe. But, Hawkinson had a couple of Big Ten offers. But, Kittle and Laporta. I mean, Kittle's going to Weber State and Laporta's going to Bowling Green. But point is, it's recruiting is individual for everybody. And it's not judging anybody else's judgment. But we thought we saw some traits in DJ that maybe were. And he's done nothing but just improve. And I don't know how ready he is to be a starter right now, but I could see him being a starter in the future here. He's worked hard. He's put weight on, good weight. He works extremely hard. Is competitive, tries to block, which some guys will or won't. And that was the question on TJ. And when TJ got here, well, we actually brought him to camp and made him try to block somebody. He was terrible, but at least he tried. So it was okay, this guy, he'll learn it, and he did. So I'm not saying DJ's going to end up like TJ. Well, this is confusing. But anyway, but he's a really positive guy and a good guy in our room, and that's a good room of guys right now. So happy he's here, and we try to be fair with anybody that comes here in terms of rewarding them if they're moving up the charts. So that's always a good thing. That's a fun thing.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. You talked a couple weeks ago about the cornerback competition, the guys that are in the mix there. Can you just describe as a unit and as individuals since the start of camp what you've seen from that group?
Yeah, they're all, you said cornerback, right? Outside guys. Yeah, they're all doing well. Jalen's been limited a little bit, the soft tissue. Like every camp, you got some guys with football-type injuries. And I skipped over the running back thing earlier, but kind of same discussion. I think we have a good pool of guys in both groups, and we'll certainly know more in about 3 weeks. But TJ, unfortunately, he had an injury, and we're lucky based on the way it looked, but it ended up being a bone-on-bone thing. So, he's got a bone bruise right now, which those are painful. It's probably going to be a week or two before he's back, but he was really doing well. Deshaun's doing a really nice job, and then Jalen's the next guy up. It's giving these younger guys, Godfrey and Moda, a chance to work, and Shaheed joined us, Barrow. So, it just gives us a good chance to evaluate, but that's one that'll be ongoing, I'm sure. But the two older guys, TJ, till he got hurt 2 days ago, was doing really good, and same thing with Deshaun's playing well, too. So I think, as long as we keep improving, we'll end up okay there.
Squeeze in 3 more,
Ethan Petrick, Quad City Times. We hear about the 24-hour rule with your players a lot in a year where there's some big stuff out there for you personally. Yeah. What's your 24-hour rule look like? How do you spend those 24 hours after a game?
Yeah, it's pretty simple, really. First thing, when I was in the NFL, it's probably why I could never go back to the NFL. But anyway, the head coach where I worked at least had to go see the owner after the game. So, all I really wanted to do was get in my car and go home. That's all. It's simple, and it was that way as long as I've coached. When I was here in the 80s, if I was in a good mood, I would walk home through the parking lot. A friend of mine was always somewhere over that corner, and I'd stop and have a beer with him, and then I'd walk right over to our house. Took 10 minutes, 9 minutes, and I'd be on my couch. Life was good. If we lost, just kept going. No stopping, and no stopping to go for $200. So, that's kind of the model. And I worked for one guy that, I used to feel like I was stopping in his office on the way out of the stadium, and he's putting on his tie, and he had to go upstairs, and the owner was either, he'd typically been, having a few during the game, and so it was either the end of the world or the best thing in the world, and exactly what you don't want your players to do, that type of deal. And I was thinking to myself, man, I don't know if I could do that, because I got in my car, I went home. So that's what I do. I go home as fast as possible. It's a little tough when you're on the West Coast flying back through the night. It means you're home at 5:30 or whatever. I like to go home and try to get your mind off. That's impossible. But, you process it, and just like we tell the players, I mean, we come in and watch the tape, and you either feel really good or you feel bad. And but the biggest thing is learning from it on Sunday, and then you move on. And one good thing about practice Monday morning, we don't have time to, mourn things too long, and we don't have time to celebrate. We got to get moving on to the next team. And if you don't do that, you really give up. You give up a lot of opportunity to have an edge. So.
Coach, over here. Chris Maglo, the Daily Iowan. I wanted to ask about Jennings Dunker because you talked about the O-line a little bit. What have you seen from him from, his first year to now that's led him to the growth? He was named the preseason All-American. And how do you see him kind of leading this O-line throughout this next season?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Jennings, if you meet him personally, it's a good exposure, just a really interesting guy. He could be on that beer commercial from 10 years ago. In fact, he'd be more eye-grabbing because of his, redheaded mullet. But, he's a highly intelligent guy. And, he hides it well sometimes. So it's interesting that way. He'll play games with you. But, man, I'll tell you, this guy works. And, talking about some of the other positions and certainly the offensive line, we had the group that he came in with, it was during the COVID period. Just some really unusual stories, and, it was a bunch of them. And that you wonder about scoring points. It's hard to score points when you can't block. So that was part of it. But anyway, to his credit, he fought through he had some lower leg injuries that were impeding his progress and development, and offensive line's all about development. So, he's playing catch up that way. And he's just done a really nice job last 2 years. Works like crazy, very coachable. He's got tremendous pride in the, guys that, obviously he's big and strong, but, and plays with good effort. But guys that play with effort and that have pride and have mental toughness, they have a chance to really become, as good as they can become. And I think, Jennings isn't there yet. He's got things he's working on right now, and he's gotten better in 8 practices. He's improved, I think, immensely in certain parts. And, that's what you want to see with your older guys. They're working just as hard as any young guy trying to figure out what they're doing. So that's really, he's a joy to coach. He's a lot of fun. Most of our guys are. They're just good guys to coach.
Last question in the back, Trey.
Hey, Kirk, all the way in the back here. Trey Redfield at Local 5. When it comes to the scoring points and it comes to the total offense, the improvement from 23 to 24 was drastic. It was really high. Why can we see another big jump offensively in 25 for your guys?
I don't mean to. I don't want to go off on too big of a tangent, but first of all, the objective is to win. That's really all we care about. But the best way to win is, points scored and points against. So that's where your focus is. But every year is an adventure. Every team is an adventure. Every things happen during the course of a season too sometimes, and so you just deal with reality and try to find a way to get to the finish line. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that over the years. And we've, 26 years here. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have challenges. We're not, and I'll say this. I mean, we're not Ohio State. We never have been. We never will be. It might, make fans upset or whatever, but I mean, history shows that. So we got to be comfortable with who we are and how we're going to be successful. And if we have injuries in a certain area, then we're going to have to figure out a way to, to compensate or get it done. Our most explosive offensive team in 26 years was 0-2, and we weren't exactly knocking it out defensively early, but the defense caught up. And defense is what we built this thing on, and then we'll go off of that. And I say this program 26 years ago. I learned that from my predecessor and other great coaches that I've had a chance to work with or watch. So it starts there. I just think defense travels well, and if you want to be a consistent winner, you better emphasize it. But we're trying to score points too, and whatever. So you do the best with what you can. And as I said a year ago, again, 26 years here, +9. When our line plays good and our quarterback plays good, that's a good start. We got a chance. And last year, we had the line play. We had all kinds of, ups and downs at quarterback, but we had a running back who, nobody was talking about exactly at this time of last year, and boom, blew up and just played great. And so that's kind of the history of our program too. Somebody's got to step up and get things done, because you're always going to lose good players. And but the bottom line is find a way to the finish line. And we've done a pretty good job of that the last 5 years, last 10 years. If you look at us relative to the other 17 teams in our conference, we're proud of where we're at. Yeah, we'd like to improve it, but we're going to just try to find a way. A little bit of luck. I think things are coming together offensively a little bit, and Yeah, but who knows? I mean, tidal wave hits or whatever, and all of a sudden, you just never know what it's going to be. So you got to be prepared to, do what's best each and every week with the guys that can get to the game and play. But yeah, it's exciting right now just because I think we have a chance to have a little bit more balanced offensive football team than we've had over the last several years, really probably going back to 20. So, that's good. And it's always kind of funny, the 21 season, I think we won 10 games there. And I think our points per game there was exactly the same as 09. Pretty darn close if it wasn't, right? And Pat, we were good guys back in 09, right? In 21, we were all like bums, So it's funny how, I guess I do too much. I'm not trying to be a jag-off, but I mean, I study that stuff, right? It's just so. But winning the bowl game helps too, and we didn't do that in 21. And we had a chance. But we weren't quite good enough, and that's, you got to get over that hump, And the 09 team did that, so relatively the same statistics. So the bottom line is just, we got to figure out a way to win each and every week, and that's going to be our goal, our puzzle, and let the games begin. But luckily we got 3 weeks here still to figure some things out.
There's really not a lot of new install. They're just adjustments, off of something. So when you teach something and you can say, hey, it's just like this, but we're just changing this one thing, they're like, oh, so that's not a big install. It's really not a new play, but it is a new play. So and a lot of those are different blocking schemes we can do. When you talk about peeling layers back of an offense, this one has a lot of layers, a lot that we haven't been able to use and we're starting to use, and from hand signals to different tempos to all the different things you can do, and we're starting to slowly peel those layers back, and it's been fun to watch.
We won't get to talk to you tomorrow, so what do you want to see tomorrow? Are you gonna? It's gonna be pretty vanilla out there. What do you expect to get out of tomorrow?
Yeah, I just want to see them out there competing. That's the biggest thing. Efficiency. I'm going to continue to call it aggressively, and I want to see when I call a good one, make the throw. When I call a bad one, get me out of that bad call. And so. And we're not going to run anything new tomorrow. There's no install. It's all repeats. So it'll just be a good. People will be there. Will be pressure. So we've had a very physical, competitive camp, which is fun because it makes practice kind of feels like a scrimmage. I don't know how much more of the scrimmage can feel like our night practice the other day, because it was about as ramped up as the practice I've been part of, back and forth, offense, defense. We'd hit one, big hits. It was great. It was a lot of fun to be a football coach under the lights. It was Wednesday night, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to continue to see how they react when I put them in different situations.
Looking at your 2021 offense at Western, it just seemed like it clicked. You had a 3,000-yard pass, 1,000-yard rusher, 1,000-yard receiver, 2 guys after Sky that had 700 yards each, 800-yard rusher on top of the 1,000-yard rusher. What allows an offense to click like that?
I think just time, number one, right? I mean, it just takes time on task. Time on task and repeating an action over. I mean, muscle memory is real, and so. When you're talking about running these routes, we have 4 senior receivers right now that really understand it, and they're starting to run. They still got work to do, but they're starting to understand all the different situations, how to cut off routes. We always say we don't run lines on a paper. Now I'm going to give you a sheet of paper that says what it's supposed to look like, but it changes on the fly, and so those guys are really kind of cooking right now. They understand what we're doing, and we still got to get them the ball, and. But I think those guys and the O-line understanding what we're trying to get out of each play is really what allows the opportunity to make a jump like we did that year.
When you say Brown has had an outstanding camp, what specifically?
He's run all the plays before, right? So he gets his opportunity. He's not always going against the one defense, although he's done really well against the one defense. We put him in there for 4 snaps against our defense in the red zone. I think we scored on 3 of the 4. He was seeing things well. So he's a little bit ahead as far as when we run something for the first time, it's not his first time, but he's calm. I think he's got his feet better. There's a couple things we worked on this summer that I want him to work on that I couldn't really have him do in the spring, or it would screw him up, just throwing wise. I think he's throwing the ball better. So it's fun to watch his growth. And then Heck's a little ball player now, considering he's only been here a month. He's got a little bit of a lot of arm angles, and he's just he makes plays, So it's been fun. All 3 of them rotating him through. It's been a joy to coach that group.
When the Iowa social media team releases these videos of practice, it's easy for fans and even media to get kind of excited about seeing, Mark throw a dart to the end zone or something. Is there anything that you've seen Mark really do over the last couple weeks in camp that's really made you open your eyes wide, or anything he's really done to impress you?
Change protection. I mean, that's a big part of this. We didn't do that last year. I mean, we gave the quarterback the opportunity to do that. But I mean, he changed protection today once. I mean, missed a touchdown throw by an inch, but I mean, he saw it, high pressure situation, adjusted to protection, bought himself, 2 seconds instead of 1. Was able to let our tight end get behind coverage, and then just I mean, it would have been the best end of practice ever if we would have hit that one. But the part about being at the line of scrimmage, understanding blitzes and understanding how to buy yourself more time so you don't just have to throw hot all the time, that's the beauty of the offense, right? Like Purdy could do it as a rookie and just throw hot all the time, but once you start learning protection, you can actually protect yourself, and instead of throwing hot, maybe rip a seam down the middle because you bought yourself an extra second, So you can be efficient with it with young guys, but man, when you have a veteran, we talk about peeling back players. What he's been able to do with his experience of seeing blitzes and understanding what to do with protection was really a aha moment for me. It was great.
We know there's a lot of open competition at left tackle, but kind of what have you seen from the guys kind of rotating in at left tackle?
Yeah.
Is there anybody that?
I don't think anyone. No, I don't think so. Because I mean, coach has been rotating them pretty steadily. Is that a word? It is now.
Yeah.
Steadily. So I think Lauk and Dotes have done a great job, and Bryce. We moved Bryce all over the place. He's new, so he's learning. So he's naturally behind, which we knew he would be, and he's going to chase from behind, and he's got tons of experience at Ferris State. But I really think those two have just, from the first spring I was here to last fall to last spring, I don't know if any of them have the edge, but they're both playing well at a high level, and it'll be interesting to see as we get 2 weeks into this thing which one, because I bet they're both going to play. They're both going to be ready. Whoever's not the second tackle is going to be the third, and is going to have to be ready to play regardless.
On top of Mark already being a veteran, you have a lot of returners on the offense. How has that eased his transition?
I think it's helped. I think they bonded when he got here. He did a phenomenal job of coming in, not being too big for everyone, just getting in and working, right? I mean, that's what you do. You get in the weight room, you show everybody you're willing to work, and offensive linemen especially appreciate that, and then he hit it off with Lojo and Dunk and then Bo, and now they're thick as thieves now, and so he's done a great job of just acclimating himself into our team, and I think they're excited. They have fun, a lot of fun when they're out there, so it's good.
This guy's the first guy, this guy's the second guy. I think it's still wide open right now, and excited about the competition.
Can you describe, for someone who isn't as well versed in special teams as you are, how important this snapper job is? Because I feel like some people might just gloss over it and be like, oh, whatever. But it's a
Sure, I think a lot of people gloss over it. To be fair, we've been very fortunate to have very good snappers here at Iowa, and most recently the one Luke Elkin, who's in camp with the Chicago Bears, and so I think everyone kind of gets used to that level of snapping here in particular, and you kind of just forget about them because you don't really see bad snap, errant snaps, anything like that. But what a good snapper will do is he will allow the punter and the kicker to stay in rhythm and not have to vary anything. Makes the holder's job easy, makes the punter's job easy. And then for us, that's always been a threat in coverage as well.
What's Coach Ferentz like on a Sunday, win or loss? What's his demeanor like?
Coach Ferentz, as long as I've known the guy, so you're looking at 26 years, his demeanor is the same. It's not, if you win, it's not like he's super elated and jumping off the walls. If you lose, he's slamming doors, things like that. That's not Coach Ferentz at all. He's pretty steady, pretty even keeled. But it's always good to be around him because he'll always find a way to lift you back up and pick you back up off the mat. I go back to things that stick out in my mind. In 2016, this is years past, but we lost a game we went to Penn State. We got beat up pretty good at Penn State, and somehow we come back in, and everyone's feeling bad at that point. Coach Ferentz found a way to lift us all up, pick us up off the mat, and we play Michigan here at home and make a walk-off field goal to win the game, against a number 2 opponent. So I think you can't do those kind of things without the leadership and steadiness of Coach Ferentz.
You're one of these few guys who's gotten to know Kirk since his literal first days on campus. You've been around him. Is there any way that he's changed over these last 27 years, or is he still kind of the same guy you knew back then?
I think he, deep down, is the same guy. The same guy. The things that I talk about, the stability, the consistency, the even keelness of Coach Ferentz is the same. He's adapted with the times. People are different. The game is different. College football, the landscape is different. He's adjusted with that. But overall, the things he preaches, the core values, the fundamentals, the discipline, all that stuff is still there. Still Coach Ferentz.
LeVar, going back to long snapper for just a second.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you love talking about snapping, right?
Who doesn't?
That's right. So is there a possibility you guys used to and punting, field goal situation?
Yeah, I think everything's on the table right now. We're just trying to find the best guys that make the best units to make our football team the best possible.
And then Holder, I'm assuming Ty is maybe in the lead there, but is it he and Reese that are splitting most of those reps?
Yeah, so he and Reese are splitting the reps. They're pretty even right now. I would say Ty has the upper hand just because he has game experience right now. But, I don't think Reese is far behind him.
Okay, and then seems like I had to go back and count the last time Iowa had, you guys had 6 quarterbacks on roster heading into fall. Is that is there a potential of using a Ryan Fitzgerald and getting him up to speed with holding? What's the approach with
I think
using
all
quarterbacks
that's
as holders?
Sure, I think all that's on the table. Typically we'll ask a guy, did you do it in high school? And the guys that raise their hand, we feel have potential to do it in college. We test them out, we train them. We've done that with guys in the past as well.
Is there anybody in that quarterback room that did hold in high school?
All of them have held at some point, So, but right now we haven't been totally focused on those guys holding. The 2 we have right now have done a really good job.
Can Ty throw?
Yeah, I think Ty can throw, Reese can throw, Zach Lutmer can throw, Fitzgerald can throw. All the guys that have worked as a holder for us. If you can't throw, it's going to be really hard to be a holder.
From my conversations with Drew Stevens, every time I talk to him, he's kind of got me thinking. I'm just like, he's just an interesting guy who's very analytical or just seems to really be a thinker. Is he the standard kicker personality, or is he a guy that you also have those conversations with him and he gets you thinking too?
Yeah, I'm not sure what a standard kicker personality is. I know the guys that I've worked with, they've all been tremendously hard workers, very, very diligent at what they do, very knowledgeable at what they do, very driven guys. Almost like insane type driven. And I think Drew fits right along with that. Drew's very obsessive with his craft, and he learns it, and he tries to push, and he challenges himself to get out of his comfort zone. To me, that's the kind of guy I want to coach. Not only Drew, but I think Reese is that way. All the guys we've had have been that way, that have been highly successful. And personality-wise, I think Mike Vrabel said this the other day, and I would love to coin this phrase. Okay, I'd love to coin it, but it's not me. He said it about, I don't care. We can have different personalities. We have to have the same mentality. We have to be aggressive. We have to be a guy that wants to go score points, a guy that wants to take the field, that's not afraid of the opportunity. I think we have that in our room, all of our guys. I'll throw Caden Bohr in that as well. He's a freshman. He hasn't played in a game here, but that guy attacks every day, and in the same way that Reese does. But I'm glad you brought that up about the same way Reese and Drew. I'm glad you brought that up about Drew because, he's a different personality for sure. But man, he's fun to be around right now.
Oh, yeah.
What's your confidence level in Caden?
Confidence level is fine. Yeah, that's high. Saw him do it in high school. He does it well here. Just got to keep getting better and keep refining his craft.
What about kick return? Who are the guys maybe at the top of the
Yeah, so kick return, we actually start next week. But, Weegen's done it in games, done well with that. I think you see some of the same names I mentioned before with T.J. Washington. I think Kamari Moulton's in that mix. I think the Jazz is in that mix. I think that some young guys like Braden Jackson and McNeil are in that mix. Sam Phillips. I think we've got a good group of guys to work with. We haven't quite installed that. That'll go in next week, but feel good about those guys.
8 practices in or whatever, and you still got your voice. Is that a new record?
I was working hard on that last night. We had our media training with the group yesterday, and I could sense that it was, but it's been better this year. It's 25 years in the coaching profession. You'd hope at some point it would just get calloused and keep coming.
Seth, can you talk about Landon Van Kickerix?
Landon Van Kickerix, yes,
Last name,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
What was the recruiting process like with him, and then has he got a chance to factor into some serious
He certainly does. And, whether it be Landon, whether it be Jaden Montgomery, I know Coach mentioned the 3 guys that'll probably take the field in the first group tomorrow, but there is a lot of healthy competition there, and Landon's certainly in that mix. And going back to his recruitment, Landon was an FCS kid, and he was from the northwest corner of Illinois. LeVar knew about him. We knew of him. And I'd say his recruitment in a lot of ways is like Seth Benson's, just being tucked up in that northwest corner and, being slated to go to an FCS school. And then, we ended up falling in love with him. And he's been great for us. Obviously he made an impact in the Missouri Bowl game, ran down on a kickoff, had a hell of a play there. And, so we're just, we're riding the wave right now of some of these guys that, are providing depth and hoping to clear the picture up defensively.
Was he a signing day ad?
No, it was. Yeah, I still remember being up there caught in a storm and having to stop at a local bar downtown because it was. I mean, when I say it was, it was nasty out, and his dad's calling me, "Hey, did you make it out of town before the storm?" And so no, there was. It wasn't as late as it may have appeared to be. Like we were on him at a good time, and eventually got him turned in this direction.
With this linebacker, I mean, there's so many guys involved. What are you looking for maybe as like a key factor to make the decision as who's going to play? Is it consistency, just leadership? Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, we've got to put these guys in the fire as often as we can at this point in camp. And then we just really got to see how they navigate the smoke that comes with the fire. And, I use that analogy because, it's kind of like Norm used to always talk about putting the fire out, being a firefighter. But you got to experience those situations. And sometimes those situations are so unpredictable that, you don't know how the fire starts. It's just a matter of going out there and trying to navigate what comes after you feel the heat of, the moment or the emotion that goes into it. And that's what these guys are lacking, at this point, is enough of that. And I use the word lacking. We just haven't given them enough of it. They're unbelievably knowledgeable when it comes to the defense. And I mentioned earlier, like they've done things in a way in which Jay Higgins did them. A way in which Jack Campbell did them, where when they were buying their time, they paid unbelievable attention. They were incredibly invested. So they know our defense, and they know it in and out. They just need those situations where things happen a lot faster than just, being able to look at something on the board and make a decision what we're doing.
How have you seen Nolan DeLong for this?
Nolan, just like Landon Van Kickerix or Jaden Montgomery, I've got 5 seniors right now, and those are the more notable guys because they are in that position. But Nolan's done a great job. Nolan had a deal back in the spring that we got cleaned up medically, and it was very minor, but that limited him to a certain degree. But he's fully healthy now, hasn't had any hiccups in the first 8 practices. So, Nolan's put himself in a position where he's going to help build the depth and hopefully clear the picture, when it comes time for us to tee off in 3 weeks.
You mentioned being thrown into the fire. Jaden kind of was against UCLA last year. I know he didn't have a fantastic game, but I guess how do you evaluate such a small sample size and then him being here so long at the same time? It's just kind of an odd situation. I guess.
Yeah, it's I laugh jokingly. Yes, it was a tough situation that he was thrown in, against UCLA. And then to make matters worse, the first snap he took, the ball was in the middle of the field, which, if you know anything about us defensively, when the ball's on the hash, we set our defense to the field. It's real easy to do. But when you're playing the multiple offenses and the ball's in the middle of the field, it requires a little bit more to try to figure out where to set the defense. And, so the first play, I hated it for him because that was a tough situation because you're getting thrown in there and all you're thinking about is getting your ass out to the field, getting lined up. And you're probably not thinking about what personnel are they in, what multiple formations can they come out in. And that one ended up breaking out to our left. And, so that's kind of a snapshot of just, maybe some opinions that might circulate in terms of, is he going to be ready? Is he going to be enough? And, I would say this about Jaden Harrell, like if you guys look at his numbers, which you don't have them, like strength, performance, all of those are on par with other guys that we've had that have played that position. And I mentioned it before, like his depth of knowledge in regards to our defense is really significant. Like it is, like he knows the ins and outs. We were, as a defensive staff, a half an hour ago watching a decision that he made down the red zone today on a zero pressure that we were running that requires a depth of knowledge defensively, and he immediately saw it, made the adjustment, and we ended up picking up a pretty good play defensively. So I'm excited for it, but like I said, we gotta find ways to throw them in the fire, and then they've got to navigate the smoke that comes with it.
Seth, I'm interested in coaching style and critiques of young players with an incredible amount of talent you need them to get ready fast. How do you kind of push and pull between, hey, put your arm around them, come on, you got this, you're good at it, good job, versus, whatever else you got to do?
Yeah. I think we've done an outstanding job recruiting at the linebacker position, and I'm not saying that trying to take the credit for it. Like it is, whether it be Tyler Barnes or Matt Spalding or Rhett Smines, the guys that are in our room that are, they're digging through the tape and, we're coaching and then they're throwing data at us and their opinions. The one thing that I believe that we've done at this position is we have found guys that are unbelievably competitive. Like they just, you watch these 3 freshmen that, have gotten some pub for, the last year now, and then you watch the 2 that just came in here, Carson Cooney and Burt Goucher. If you can find the right guys that are unbelievably competitive, then to me the coaching becomes so much easier. And if you've got the right guys that are willing to do what Jack Campbell did or what Jay Higgins did and sit back and realize that them being a freshman in college is the equivalent of being an 8th grader in high school if you were to use your 5 years, and they can see the picture, not right in front of themselves but down the road, that makes it much easier to coach guys, especially with a little bit of the shift of the type of kids you're getting, things of that nature that get a lot of information, and a lot of pub. Like, you just try to stick with what you believe in at your position, and there's so much that goes into it that a kid realizes when he first gets here, like, holy shit, like this is a lot. And it is going to take a little bit of time. It's almost a humbling. But once they get past that, I'm not playing my first year when I get to Iowa, maybe other than special teams, and they realize the opportunity that they have ahead of themselves to just get so much depth of knowledge with us defensively that to me it takes care of itself. And then you're able to coach them in a way in which they completely respect, because they don't feel the weight on their shoulders that, okay, I got to go do this tomorrow. And if I don't do it tomorrow, it's, it's either an A or an F. Like, that's just not how we look at it from a grading standpoint. Like, let these guys just start to get a feel.
Along those lines, those 3 linebackers, they redshirted last year. They didn't play special teams. They were certainly physically gifted enough to do so. Was that something that you came together as a staff that wanted them to immerse themselves in, whether it's scout team and everything else, and just kind of let's give them this to bake them in the oven rather than peel them off here, peel them off there?
Yeah, I think, Scott, what you want to do is you want to let these kids get their feet on the ground as much as possible and not feel the weight of everything that comes with even running down 4 times on kickoff in the middle of Kinnick Stadium in front of 70,000 fans, only to be critiqued if, it's a 30-yard gain or a 10-yard gain. That weight is a lot. And it's a lot for an 18-year-old kid. And we're such a developmental program, and we've been such a developmental position at the linebacker position that in the recruiting process, if that can get explained to them and they can be receptive to it and understand that, hey, it's not going to be tomorrow, but it could be 3 weeks down the road, it could be a year down the road, then I think the appreciation comes with that they don't feel that weight, of having to do it, I guess, right away.
With each of them as individuals right now, what attributes would get them on the field?
We've seen it with plenty of freshmen, that have jumped on the field for us, and it would take an awful lot at the linebacker position. It would take a lot to go wrong, maybe in the guys that are seated in front of them, injury, things of that nature, for us to get to that point early in the season. But if they keep pushing and they keep knocking on the door, like they have done, the younger guys in the room, like, it's going to come sooner rather than later. And, I'm encouraged by it. I'm excited, for them. I think they internally, as much as I try to let them know that, they are moving forward in the right direction, I think internally they know that they are. It's just, there's so much. And I'll be honest with you, I'm extremely thankful for what we do offensively, because there's so much there's just so much diversity in what our guys see, play-wise, formation-wise, motion-wise, that it prepares them so much more for, what we're going to be faced with during the season. Now, it might not always look good out there or look good over there, speaking tomorrow, but every snapshot we get at it, improvement's been made, growth's been made, development's been made, and to me, that's what's going to give them the opportunity that if it ever presents itself, these guys are going to be, ready.
Can you talk about the flashes that Carson had earlier in his career? Any that stand out to you?
About every time he's been out there, special teams wise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, there's been plenty of. I think there was a kickoff return running right to left down our sideline, so from the south end zone to the north end zone, and he ran across the field and just, waylaid somebody right on the sideline. I remember coming back up to my office after the game, and I got a text message from Pat Anger, who also wore that same jersey number, just saying, hey, this kid's got something to him. Whenever that time is right for him, defensively, he's going to make an impact. And, but there's been so many of them that, he's really done an outstanding job special teams wise that I think we're all, very hopeful that translates defensively.
You talked about guys, especially the linebacker position, or just having that patience that eventually they'll get their turn to play. In this world now, revenue sharing and NIL, how do you deal with that as a coach when there seems to be opportunities elsewhere?
I think we're very fortunate. I think we're very unique as a program. I think we're unique in a lot of ways. Start with our head coach being here for 27 years. Start with our defensive coordinator being here for that many years. Former graduate assistants, former players, all being, amongst this coaching staff and beyond support staff. That I think when kids get here, they have an appreciation for how we do things, what this program's like, and then they have an appreciation for the opportunity that will come down the road. And I think that's right now what's helping us in regards to, not experiencing the attrition that maybe some other programs have. And then I think the other thing is being a developmental program, we're recruiting a developmental player. So the player that walks into our building isn't always ready to play major college football. They're gonna be, and they will eventually, but that timing is a little bit different than, maybe some other places where that kid is, he's made for college football right out of the gate, but he's not playing, and then he immediately wants to go somewhere else. I just think there's so much respect for, how we do things development-wise, that our players want to be here and they want to be developed. And then when the time comes, they've got such a love and appreciation for the program that they want to be here. And I think examples, Jack Campbell, Jay Higgins, those are two great examples of that.
Coach, talk about just real quick. You talk about Cam Buffington, and you kind of talked about the three freshmen. He had to overcome the fact that he played 8-man football. So, can you kind of take me through day one to now and how to figure out?
Day one to now, Cam has not changed one bit, and I say that in respect to how he has gone about his business since he's been here.
Man, just tell me about what's standing out to you right now. Anybody who's really made a name for themselves in practice so far over these last couple weeks? Somebody who's really impressed you?
I think all of the guys are working extremely hard. I think the group has continued to get better, continue to come in and take the coaching, continue to just build their relationship on and off the field. But one of the guys that I think is standing out in that tight end room, I think it's DJ Vanami. I think he's ready to take the next step. He's a guy that came in as a freshman last year, got a little chance to play during the season, but this year I expect him to have a big impact. He's a guy that continuously getting better. But all of the guys in the room are taking steps forward, starting with the guy that's leading the room, Addison the Stringer, followed up by Hayden Large, and also you have Zach Oatworth. And I think guys like Michael Burt is ready to take the next step. So he's a guy that was a true freshman last year. In the spring, got a ton of reps, and just trying to move everyone forward in that room because you never know who you're going to need.
I heard, did DJ get on scholarship recently?
He recently did.
Okay.
He recently did.
Do you get to be a part of that conversation or be the one to tell him or anything?
No, he's done all the work. Yeah. He came in, put his head down, he took the coaching. He's taking advantage of the resources that we have here. and it's just a testament to him coming in and just a testament to if you come in, you do what you need to do, we'll take care of you. And DJ is a guy that going to continue to get better, and a guy that we're going to depend on in the future.
Talking about a guy who's just like put in the work is Hayden Large. I mean, somebody who I feel like he hasn't scored a touchdown yet as a Hawkeye, but man, the fans just like love him. It seems he's just been so embraced from day one here. Is he a guy that you've seen still continue to progress in this offseason, being one of the more experienced guys, a guy who's actually been around the block both here and at the NAI level too?
Absolutely. Once Hayden transferred in, we brought him in as a tight end, and then we had a need at the fullback position. So he definitely went there and did a great job. Also had some special teams value. Since last year, we've been trying to work him in at the tight end position, and obviously we got him back for a third year. So he's a guy that we could depend on. He knows the fullback position, but he also has been working in at the tight end. I think he has a unique skill set, and I feel really comfortable with him in the game, not just in his ability to block, but also in the passing game. I think he has really improved in that area. But he also is on 3 out of the 4 special teams, so that makes me happy. So
I don't know if a towel was coming again or not. Another freshman that people have been wanting to talk about is Thomas Meyer, obviously coming in with a lot of hype. Is he somebody who we could actually see get some field time this year, or is he still in the point where he's kind of just progressing along as normal freshmen do?
Well, our goal is always to play as much guys as possible because the Big Ten season is a long season. So if you can bring those freshmen along, you never know when you're going to need them. Plus, you get 4 games to play guys and still be able to redshirt them. But I don't know what the future holds for Thomas this year, but I can tell you he's off to a great start. He's working extremely hard. The things that we teaching him, it comes natural to him, and he's picking the playbook up pretty fast. So we'll continue to move him forward and see what the season looks like.
Is it fair to say too with Hayden that he's going to take most of his snaps as a tight end this year, not as many fullback snaps this time around?
Yeah. So in this offense, we got the wide tight end and the F. They're interchangeable. Okay. So based on what we're trying to get done, we can move those guys around. We just don't have to leave them in the backfield because when you look at the room, there's a total of about 8 guys in the room as of right now, and 3 of those guys have a lot of experience. Large being one of them, Addison Estringer, and Zach Oatworth. So Hayden's a guy that we're going to need to depend on not just as a fullback, but also in the passing game and also in the run game. But he's a guy that has a unique skill set and really understands the offense.
Remind me what your first year on campus as a player would have been. Was that
2001.
2001. Okay, so I was talking to LeVar about this too. So you were here a couple years into the Kirk Ferentz era, but what are some ways you've maybe seen him change over the years? Have you seen him change? Is he still the same guy that you met when you were getting recruited or coming to campus for the first time?
I don't know if I've seen him change. He's been extremely consistent. I think he's getting better throughout the years. And I tell people, they ask me, hey man, how long do you think Coach got? I'm like, hey man, come to practice. You'll think he got about 20 more years left in him because he's a guy that he has a lot of energy. He sticks to his routine, but just being able to be in a room with him, and just learn to soak up his leadership. He's very detailed. He knows how to win football games. He understands the recruiting process, and that's evolving as well too. So just seeing him go through that process as an assistant coach, but also a former player has been very impressive.
Yeah. Are you a guy who wants to be a head coach someday? Are you happy kind of serving in the role that you are? Or, is that something you aspire to one day?
We'll see. My goal is always to hit a home run with the opportunity you have, and I truly believe if you do a great job, with the opportunity you have, all the opportunities will follow.
But did you have to do that? Just because of what Tyler accomplished.
Yeah, he said he had a big head. He's about as humble as you can possibly get. Now, his not being humble might be like, I haven't seen that one, but he didn't have to say much to him. His dealing with him in 22 and 23 was basically saying, keep doing what you're doing. Like you're doing good things, you're improving. You're not going to, some days you're not going to feel it, but I see it. Like I'm looking from afar, like you stick with it. You stick with this process. Those were easy conversations because he's that kid, and very few kids can be thrown in that situation and come through it like he has, and really proud of him. And he's not the only one. This room, you take last year and this year, that room's full of guys that it's just really, I have a ton of respect for those kids and how they've handled themselves and how they continue to handle themselves. But they're less worried about that now. We got work to do. Let's just get better.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this, but were you a little bit surprised when Logan decided to come back for another year? I mean, it just seems like he didn't even think twice about going.
We talked. We talked last year after the season, and I brought him in. I said, "Hey, buddy, let's talk about it. I owe you this conversation. Here's your options. I'll help you either way." He doesn't owe anybody anything. That kid's given everything he's had to Iowa football and the University of Iowa. So I said, you don't owe anybody anything. This is about you and your future family. But here's your options. Here's my opinion on some things. And he kind of cut me off halfway through and said, Coach, I'm good. You know, but that's who he is. He's got a maturity level that's very unique, and he's a special kid. But when you meet his mom and you talk to his high school coaches and things like that, you know who he is, what he's made of.
I mean, I think Kirk likes to do that. He's a 40-year-old next-door neighbor, like type of guy that mow your lawn. Like, I mean, the guy's married now. Like, Ethan Hurt gets married now, and it's kind of 2 6-year guys been coming back and just kind of continuing to establish that culture. And then you kind of think back to those hard times. You credit those kids for sticking with the process and really trusting, I guess. How gratifying is it for you as a coach to see, hey, you guys, I know you guys really lock into what you do inside the walls, but it's impossible to just really kind of avoid all the outside noise, I guess. How much gratification, how much pride do you feel for those kids that they continue to stick with the process?
Yeah, it's my pride in that room is very high, and I'll defend them and I don't care who it is. I know what those kids have worked through, and I know the belief they have in themselves, and they've done it themselves. They're the ones that had to believe. A coach can say whatever he wants to do, but those kids have to take it by the horns, and they've done that, and they're continuing to do that. And I've always been that guy that's got my players' backs, but it's to an extreme the last 2 years. Yeah.
Good seeing you. I appreciate you.
Offensive linemen are the type that often have, the most unique personalities on the team, but Jennings Dunker is the class by himself when it comes to personalities. Is there any maybe memory over the last few years working with Jennings where you're like, boy, this guy is really one-of-a-kind type of dude?
Well, I think with him is he's comfortable being himself. It's not he doesn't put on an act. He's not putting on a show. He's just, I admire him because he's confident in who he is, and that's a tribute to his family and how he was raised. I mean, he can do things or say something or give you a look that makes you go, but it's hard not to love that kid because that's who he is. He's not trying to be anything else than the best teammate he can possibly be and the best son he can possibly be. And he's a tremendous, tremendous human being, like smart. Just his work ethic is off the charts, totally invested. There's been few things that haven't impressed me with him. He's just really an awesome kid.
Yeah, it seems like I've been surprised too, just talking to him. Like, not a social media guy. It seems like super well read. He's always got some books that he's reading. It seems like he's smart. He's intelligent, and he just is comfortable in his own skin.
Yeah, he's one of the smartest ones in the room for sure. He's pre-med. This kid's really talented. He's $1 million walking off the field. You know what I mean? Like this kid's really talented guy, and it's just. He's got a love for football and a love for Iowa, and he's dreamed of being an Iowa Hawkeye since he's been a little kid, and I'm glad he chose us.
Why is that? Does he have a connection to Iowa?
Yeah, I believe his parents lived here.
Really? Went to Iowa or just?
I'm not sure, but went to Iowa. Okay. But there's some ties there. Yeah.
As a fellow redhead, could you get your flow to the point where he started out, or
no,
give it a couple years maybe?
No, I try to keep it simple.
Yeah.
That's part of my admiration. See a redhead get wild like that, but no, I try to keep it simple.
A really good football player. I'm excited to watch him play this fall, and looking for big things for him.
How's Max Llewellyn kind of grown over the course of his career to the point where he's a difference maker for you guys?
I would lump all these guys. I would really talk about Max, and I was thinking about this, Max and Ethan Hurkett, kind of together. You talk about guys that have, I don't want to say waited their turn, but they've embraced their role. Maybe not a backup guy, but when their number's been called, they've gone on the field and produced. Doing those types of things, I think about Hurkett in 2023, the 4th down stop at Iowa State, the interception at Nebraska to seal the game. He didn't start either one of those games, but he was in there and made the play at those times. I think about Max versus Nebraska. He didn't start that game, but at the end of the game, he was there to make the play. And I think as they really continue to take advantage of the opportunities that they get, man, I think that just helps. I'm excited about them being on the field more and more and more, and hopefully the young guys behind them see that it's not always about being the starter, being listed the starter. It's about taking advantage of the reps that you have, and those guys are 2 really good examples of that.
there anything funny about Max's personality or Aaron? I was going to interview those guys later, so I was looking for some ammo. I don't know. You know them better than me. What do they do?
Funny.
What do they joke
I don't
about?
know.
I don't know.
I don't really tolerate a whole lot of levity in the room. If anybody's going to be funny, it's going to be me. But I don't really have a lot of time for the other stuff. Those guys, again, I appreciate how they show up. When they come in as freshmen and they're all wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, they think they have all the answers. They're excited to show you their huddle tape and what they did in high school, and they quickly realize that that is high school football, and I am nowhere near that person that I was 3 or 4 years ago. Really enjoy them reaching back and helping out the young guys too, because they've all been there. They've all been to the point where they come in and watch tape and they know it's not going to be good because they didn't perform well, but being resilient enough to come back and try again the next day.
Are you all business? You don't let no joking around, and Coach Bell's in the house?
You have to ask those guys that. I think I'm all business, but sometimes the truth can be shrouded in comedy and laughter, and I'm very blunt, and sometimes so blunt they think I'm joking, but I'm dead serious with a lot of the stuff that I say. So I don't know. You have to ask those guys if from a hoot or not.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
When coming with those news guys that are coming in and with the guys that are just getting their first starts and that sort of thing, how do you kind of mentally prepare them? Because there's obviously going to be first game jitters, first time out. I mean, obviously it comes with the reps and all that stuff during practice, but how do you mentally get them prepared for that first game?
It really starts in the meeting room. Just making sure that they are present and understanding the periods when we practice and try to simulate those situations and periods to, hey, this is going to be like third quarter here. Like when we left the field today, we walked off the field at 11:47, and I asked guys, anybody know what time that game is in Ames, second week? It's 11 o'clock kickoff. So just trying to find those similarities between there. There is not going to be, there's nothing I can tell them that's going to help them get ready and beyond the jitters, but good practice, highly energetic practice, competitive practice, that's going to be the best thing, because what we see out here Monday through Friday is what's going to show up on Saturday. You create that muscle memory. That's what's going to show up on Saturday. And we tell the guys, I don't want, if you make a play on Saturday, it's because you probably made it on Tuesday. Okay, if you make a play on Saturday, you probably made it on Wednesday. But if you didn't make it on Saturday, you probably didn't make it on Tuesday or Wednesday too. So it goes both ways.